Welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the Fiat 500e and why it is the best city commuter car for $5,000. Now this is an all-electric vehicle and it was originally sold in California and Oregon as a compliance car, and people have actually imported this car to other states and to other countries because it is such a good deal. Now, I originally purchased this car because I wanted to use it for a finance series I was doing on YouTube, and I found that this car could save me hundreds of dollars in vehicle expenses per month. And now with gasoline going up to $5 a gallon here in California, it saves me about $500 a month over driving my truck to work. And so I've just kept the car because it's such a good car. But many people are finding the same thing as me, and that is that it is not just an economy car, it's actually a very fun car to drive. So when Fiat took the original Fiat 500 and converted it to electric, they had to put this massive battery pack on the bottom of the car, and that actually helped improve the handling. The weight balance is now 53% in the front, 47% in the rear, and so when you put an aggressive set of tires on it and an aggressive suspension, the car handles very well, and that's exactly what I did with this car here. So you can see that I have racing wheels on here. These are off of a Miata, and you can see that I have these Federal RSRR tires. These are tires that I'll use on the racetrack for practice on my track cars, but it really wakes up the handling on the Fiat. Now, if we check underneath the car here, you can see just how low the battery pack hangs down, and that makes the center of gravity very low in the car, and that is what makes it so much fun to drive. Now, coming around to the front, you see that you have a single projector headlamp here, and it just has a shutter in it. So when I put my high beams on, it opens up and it shoots the light up very high. And the factory halogens were not very bright, so I threw some LED lights in there, and it really made the headlights much better. When we look under the hood, it looks almost like a normal internal combustion engine car. But when we pop this up, we notice a little bit of difference here. And that is your battery is right there. There's no gasoline-powered engine in here. It's much different looking once you take the cover off. And this powertrain was actually created by Bosch, and that should actually provide you some peace of mind. So the car is not really Italian. It's not going to be as troublesome as other Italian cars. All right, let's come around to the inside. Now this car looks very small on the outside, but it's actually a pretty spacious car. There's nothing in the center to detract from the cabin space, and the rear seats are actually fairly comfortable. You can actually transport about 4 good-sized adults if they're not totally overweight like most Americans. So right here there's a lever, and this allows me to get in the back seat. So I fit pretty comfortably back here. Let me close the door. And now I'm 6 foot and my head is just touching the ceiling, so it's a little bit tight, but definitely doable. And there is another seat here, and there is the front seat there, of course. Now, if you take a look at my knees, they're pushed up pretty high, and that's because there is a battery pack down beneath us, but overall, just not that bad. Now, looking down in the center here, we have 2 cup holders back here for the rear passengers, and you have 2 cup holders up there. Coming up to the center control area, we don't have a shifter, we just have buttons, and this is how we shift from reverse to neutral to drive. These are our window controls, so if I push this down, that controls my windows. These are my seat heaters right here, so that will turn my seat warmers on. And then this is the air conditioning control unit up here. You notice there's no max cool on here, and you have to incrementally adjust the temperature by 1 degree at a time. This is your radio up here, standard controls. You have an auxiliary input down here and also a USB input where you can plug your phone in. Now the phone actually connects to the car that way, and you can control the songs with these buttons on the back of the steering wheel. There's a toggle switch right here which controls the volume. This is on the right side. And on the other side there is a switch which controls the tracks back and forth. Now the other thing that I found very useful in this car is that you have the ability to fold these seats down, and then you have a whole lot of space back here. And so I actually use this car for home improvement projects as long as I'm not buying large sheets of drywall or large sheets of plywood. All right, so if we open the trunk here and we fold these seats down, we can see just how much space we have back here. Under here we have our 110 volt charger, and we have a tire repair kit. Now this standard charger takes approximately 17 hours to charge the car up. But if you purchase a level 2 charger, you can charge the car in a little bit under 4 hours, and that's what I have at home. Okay, let's put our seatbelt on here. We're gonna go for a little test drive. So here in California, we have different types of fuel available. We have E85, we have gasoline, and we have diesel. E85 I will use in a high compression racing engine. Gasoline is used in a wide variety of cars and trucks, and same with diesel, a wide variety of cars and trucks. And now we have all these electric vehicles, and one of my favorite applications of electricity in cars is actually in the city car. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in drive, and we're gonna take off here. And the reason that I like electricity in the city car so much is because in the city I do a lot of short drive cycles, and short drive cycles are not great for my internal combustion engine cars. And so if I had the choice, which I do now, I will always hop in this when I have to go to the store, to work, to anywhere that isn't outside of the city, off-road, at the racetrack, anything like that. The electric car is just perfect. And I think that right now we have this focus on these high-performance electric vehicles, and it really misses the point, and it misses the application where electric vehicles are at their best, and that is in the city. And we're seeing this now with the Honda E. It's not going to be available in the US, and that does make me upset because these small electric vehicles are actually my favorite types of electric vehicles. And I have experience with the Taycan and the Tesla and all the fancy cars, but those don't really do much for me. I still prefer to have gasoline-powered performance vehicles. So the reason for that is pretty simple. It has to do with charging them up. The charging is still a little bit stressful. If I'm driving on a long trip with the Tesla, I have to plan that out, and that's still a little bit stressful. I still prefer to take a diesel car on a long trip, like the BMW 335D. It's hard for me to get super excited about those types of electric vehicles. The other electric vehicle that came out recently, the Taycan, one of my absolutely favorite electric vehicles right now, but it's very expensive. It's out of reach for many people. And this one is actually one of my favorite vehicles, and that's why I'm doing this review on it. It's just so much fun, so efficient, and it saves an insane amount of money. I was blown away because I estimated a certain amount, and it blew away my estimates. And the reason for that was not just from the fuel savings, which is what I accounted for, but it's from the maintenance savings and the insurance savings. This has become my primary car. And often when I go to work or the store, there's a charger available and I can charge the car for free. Now, with the level 2 chargers that are available at work and the store or the mall, it takes a few hours to charge the battery fully. And so if I'm shopping, I can get a full charge while I'm shopping. And also when I go home for the night, I can get a full charge. So I just plug the car in when I get home, go to bed, wake up in the morning, and I have a full charge. And so the short range of this car, which is about 80 miles, never really becomes a problem because I don't take this car on trips. I tried taking this car on one trip once. I tried driving it to the mountains, and I had to charge it at the base of the mountain, and I barely made it up the mountain. The battery drains so quickly when you're driving uphill. It's amazing how quickly the battery drains. The battery also drains faster when I turn the air conditioning on. The battery drains faster when I drive the car aggressively. And so you have to be very careful with that. So the city is really the best application for this electric car. It's not going to be a car that I take on a trip. It's not going to be a car that I take off-road or to the racetrack. If I take an electric car to the racetrack, the battery will get depleted very quickly. But in the city, it really excels. And one of the areas that it really stands out is in stop-and-go situations like this. It seems to be a lot less clunky than a gasoline or a diesel-powered car. It just takes off very smoothly. Even if I floor it, the dog will not get upset, and I'll get way out in front of the other cars at the traffic light. It's just a very smooth vehicle. So I can go zipping by these other cars here, and you notice that the dog doesn't even get upset because the power delivery is so smooth. It just it just goes. There's no shifting. It's just this linear pull. You press on the gas and it just goes. And I guess I shouldn't be calling it a gas pedal because it's electric, but it's really impressive. Any of the new electric cars that you drive, it's really impressive how smooth they operate. Now, a big limitation of this car is that it tops out at 88 miles per hour. Sometimes the freeways down here do move faster than 88 miles per hour, so you'll find people flying by you at certain times on the freeway here. And so that is one of the big limitations of this car, is the top speed of 88 miles per hour and the short driving range. Another thing that I really like about the Fiat 500 compared to the larger electric cars that are out right now is the weight. So this car weighs about 2,900 pounds, which is similar to a Honda S2000. And when I put the stickier tires on it, it made it really fun to throw it around the corners. And when you drive a Tesla or the Porsche Taycan, you can really feel that extra weight. And so one of the things that I appreciate about this car is the small size and the lightweight, relatively lightweight. So from a cost perspective, you can pick these things up for about $5,000 if you're willing to buy one with higher mileage. When I bought this one, I wanted to find a balance of lower mileage and lower price, and so I found this one with 35,000 miles for a little bit over $5,000. The total came out to $6,400 after I paid for the taxes and the registration. And then at that time, there was also a $1,000 rebate from my utility company. And so when I purchased the car, they gave me a check for $1,000. So my out-of-pocket expense for this car when I first bought it was $5,400. Now, as I continued to drive this car, I realized that it never needed any maintenance. I never needed to change the oil. I never needed to do the brakes. It has regenerative braking on it. So with 55,000 miles on the odometer, it still has the original brakes and they still look new. And I'm probably never going to need to change the brakes for the life of the car. And so compared to an internal combustion engine car, the maintenance is nowhere near the same. There's no upkeep needed on this car. You just turn the key and you go. And that was a big shock to me owning this car. I haven't done anything to it. I just drive it and it keeps going. Now also, because I substitute this car for my internal combustion engine cars, I don't have to maintain those cars as much anymore because I'm not putting as much miles on them. And so that was an additional cost savings. So on the surface level right now, by commuting in this, I'm saving about $500 a month. But if you calculate the maintenance cost that I'm saving too, it's significantly more than that. And that's what makes this car such a good city car. Let's accelerate from this light and see if I can beat this Toyota Corolla. I out-accelerated the Corolla and I was able to make it over into the left lane. Another one of my favorite things about this is that I never have to go to the gas station. I just come home, I plug it in, and it's charged up in the morning. Those are the main reasons why I really like this car as a city car, why I've kept it, and why I continue to put miles on it, because I enjoy it so much. And I truly think that this is one of the best city cars that you can buy for $5,000. When you compare the running costs of a gasoline-powered car to the running costs of this, which are virtually nothing, there's no comparison. I would not consider a gasoline-powered economy car after owning this one. It's just such a great car, and I really hope that we see more smaller, more affordable electric cars that normal people can buy, not just these fancy sports cars and trucks, all these cars that many people will never be able to afford. That is all I have for you guys. Thank you for watching, and make sure that you enjoy your car.